2019, I pivoted into selling masks and selling PPE equipment. And we were able to talk to a few people, and they had plenty of it.
Right.
So I became really confused on why hospitals here were struggling.
Right.
So one of my best skills is I'm really good at connecting people and facilitating stuff.
Right.
I was able to facilitate $17 million of orders.
Holy moly.
Yeah, because if you have value and you could provide people value, just having their contact, you can really, accomplish a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
And most people let their emotions control themselves.
Yeah.
But now whenever I feel one, I try to decide if I should let this continue or...
Yeah, well, you're gonna zap it once you're done with the Way 126. And then you
in hand, I'd say. Because there's not a lot of successful people that are negative.
Right, right. They just haven't known.
I've been to about 13 countries, but I want to do maybe 100.
All right.
Because I love experiencing other cultures, see how other people live, and I think you gain a lot of wisdom when you travel.
Oh, yeah. The student is the teacher is the student. And so the more you share, the more you receive.
And we share a same vision, which is to raise the human consciousness, which I just decided recently after talking to Sebastian and a few other spiritual people that's part of what I want to do with the podcast too.
Welcome to the Consciousness of the Way. I'm your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Quinn, and I have an incredible podcast today with our special guest here, Seanmikekelly. Welcome, friend. How are you?
Thanks for having me in your temple. It's amazing here.
Well, thank you for coming. I'm very grateful that you're gracing me with your presence and you're entering another dimension.
I pretty much am. Yeah. When I walked in, I was like, "Wow, this is another world."
Yeah. It's something that I resonate with, and it's something that I really love, and it's really important to pay homage to things that you value and you sort of gravitate to.
Yeah.
And these types of things are sort of ancient, like everything else. And the more you gravitate to them, the more you realize this is a part of me. I need this. I need this around me.
That's awesome. So a lot of the stuff out there is pretty old.
Oh, very old. Very old. This temple has got stuff that's hundreds and hundreds of years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's kind of crazy. So here you are.
Yeah.
You're at the Consciousness of the Way. You're here, and I'm just so grateful to have you. And this is a real exploration of Seanmikekelly and working out what drove you to where you are today. How did you achieve all these incredible feats that seem sort of impossible to most people, and they're sort of left with the idea that, I'd rather just sit on the couch and watch other people make it happen, like yourself. So what brought you out here to Las Vegas?
To Las Vegas. So I grew up in New Jersey my whole life, which is a good state for, I think, raising families, but not the best state for entrepreneurship.
Right.
So I was made fun of a lot in high school, college for being different, because they thought you were weird if you sold candy in school.
Right.
I got bullied for that.
Yeah.
So I always thought I didn't fit in almost in Jersey.
Right.
Because it's a state where you go to school, you become a worker, and you kind of just raise a family, and that's what Jersey is. Most people don't ever leave from the town I grew up in.
Yeah.
So I was different, and as soon as my girlfriend graduated college, I was like, we're leaving.
Wow.
So we tried LA first.
Okay.
Hated it.
Okay.
Worst 5 months of my life probably. Just did not like the energy there. Everyone felt kind of fake almost.
I have to concur. It's a different type of reality out there. It's not the same.
Not at all. Struggled to find any friends, and so we were just like, we're leaving. We're ending the lease early. We're driving to Vegas.
Wow.
So we just came here on a whim. Stayed at the MGM for a month trying to find a house.
Oh, wow.
Because this was during the boom when everyone was leaving Cali.
All right. Okay.
So finding a house was impossible.
Yeah.
It would be listed and gone the same day.
Oh, wow.
$100K above their asking price.
Yeah.
So we got lucky, found a beautiful house, and 2.5 years later, here we are.
Well, congratulations. I mean, I think it suits you.
I love it here, man.
Yeah. It's sort of like the land of opportunity. You tend to find people that are not happy with their own environment. They all gravitate here looking for a new opportunity.
It's true.
And there's more value in more solid quality people, in my opinion.
I agree. And all the conferences are here. There's always people coming in and out, and there's always something to do.
Yeah, yeah. So you got here, you have sort of like a few challenges as a young boy, and now you're out here making things change. So what inspired you to create the career that you're in right now?
Always wanted to be on my own in entrepreneurship. Never had a real job.
Right.
Never worked for someone else. Never was interested in that path. So I always wanted to make it out on my own. Was inspired by entrepreneurs on social media like Gary Vee, watching Shark Tank, stuff like that, and really felt happy creating stuff on my own, honestly. Even though for the first 5 years or so, I probably made less than I would have if I got a job.
Right, right.
I think it was worth sacrificing that time to be where I am today.
Right, right. And so what was the turning point when you had a realization that whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm creating, whatever I'm drawing to me is paying off? I'm seeing change.
Yeah, so my first company was a jersey company. I sold sports jerseys.
Okay.
And part of my marketing strategy was to get jerseys in the hands of celebrities and stuff.
Right,
So
right, absolutely.
I still remember I got one of my jerseys in the hands of Donald Trump.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he held up a custom Trump jersey at one of his rallies.
Oh, wow.
When he was running for president in 2016. And I just remember being like, my life's about to change from here on.
That
Made
is
national
exciting.
headlines everywhere. And I was able to leverage that to make my first good chunk of change, you know?
Wow, wow. What did that? What was the snowball effect of that?
Snowball effect was being able to just use that photo in marketing campaigns.
Yes.
Use that photo to get other celebrities, get jerseys for them. And it's snowballed into where I am today, honestly.
Well, that's really interesting because most people sort of like hinge a lot of their business model on the idea of taking a celebrity, or within social media these days we look at it as like, oh well, all I need is just sponsor someone that's really well known in their field, and they'll promote your product and you'll become successful. Do you believe that's a solid model, or perhaps maybe it's a little different now?
It doesn't work as effective as it used to because
Right.
now there's a lot of influencer marketing stuff. It works more effectively if they're part of the brand, in my opinion.
Right.
Like Ryan Reynolds was part of Mint Mobile. He was the face of it. They just got acquired for over $1 billion.
Yeah.
So when you're integrated like that, rather than just paying for a post, I think it's way more effective.
Right, right, right. And so with the Donald Trump post, what did that ripple out? What was the side effect of that from a business
Yeah,
aspect?
so he didn't actually post, but I got the photo and I was able to spend marketing dollars, put marketing dollars behind it.
Well, absolutely.
And then
Yeah.
email other celebrities saying we've done this for him. So I found out which celebrities supported him, was able to go after those people. So you kind of just have to use it to your advantage. It's not just going to come just because there's a photo. You got to take some
Right,
initiative
right.
as well.
And so being so innovative, what was the architect? What's the secret sauce from taking it from a photo, which is really, wow, I got this one off. It's like walking down the street, you see a celebrity, let me get a selfie,
Yeah.
to an actual realized result that became valuable. What are the mechanisms? Because I mean, that's what
Yeah.
makes you.
So I was able to turn that photo into probably like 6 figures in profit, which for me at the time was a lot of money.
Holy moly, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Because I was like 20 or 21, I think, at the time.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so it's all perspective. So back then when I had 100K at that age, I felt really rich because I was
Yeah,
living off Chipotle
absolutely.
burritos.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying rent.
Yeah.
I was living with my mom. So that's a
Wow.
lot back then.
That's huge. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So I was able to just use that photo. And back then, Facebook ads were really big. So I would
Right.
run ads on Facebook, run ads on Instagram. There was a couple stores that sold Trump apparel.
Right.
I got my jerseys in those stores, started
Okay.
doing wholesale with them.
Okay.
So they would place $10,000 orders every 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I learned a lot.
Would you believe social media marketing is a fast, or it's still something of value? Like, would you recommend someone doing something similar to yours, working on their own social media presence and then catapulting it from there? Or would you invest money within social media networking of marketing? What do you think is the best?
Yeah, it's constantly changing because social media is changing. Attention spans are decreasing. TikTok blew up out of nowhere. So you kind of have to be on top of it. But
Okay.
I attribute a lot of my success to social media. It's led
Wow.
to almost all my podcast guests.
Right.
It's led to me making money. It's led to me networking with people. It's led to me creating friendships,
Yeah.
finding mentors.
Yeah.
Like, so much of it has come from social media.
Wow.
And most people don't use it in a beneficial way to their lives.
Right. And
But-
what? Give me an example.
Most people are mindlessly scrolling.
Right.
They're watching videos that aren't providing any value to their life.
Okay.
More of a distraction almost.
Okay.
But I've catered my feed to only show me amazing content.
Okay.
And I only message people that I want to build relationships with.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we go back to the funneling of Facebook ads, what was that? Was that an expensive like injection? Because I hear stories about people like, I spent $10,000 a month on pushing ads through Facebook and I got nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. These days the price has gone up because it's more competitive. But back then you could spend, 10,000, get 20,000, 30,000 back pretty easily. A lot of people
wow.
were doing it back then. And that's a lot of success is timing,
Okay.
just being at the right place at the right time. So, if you had a lot of money back then, I know people that made millions set for life just from
Wow.
running Facebook ads 5-6 years ago.
Why? And what's the current environment? What has it led to now? Because you are definitely someone who has their hand on the pulse.
Yeah.
What do you believe is the next thing, or what's the most effective way to create the momentum necessary for someone new?
Yeah. So now the trend is going to be media, I think. Every company is going to have a media division because content is king right now.
Right.
As you're
right.
seeing with your podcast and with your YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
So every company is going to head in that direction, I believe.
Yeah. That's an interesting insight. I fundamentally feel that way also.
Yeah.
It's but it's like it's circumventing AI because right now people just, in my opinion, feed off the teat of other people's creativity, and they take a cut. Like they'll probably take our video, cut it, do some shorts, and then pump it out there until they're told that they can't do it anymore. That's kind of like how it works.
Yeah, but you could look at it from that way, or you could look at it from the perspective of, oh, they're helping me market my brand
Yes,
as well.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I mean the social media aspect is, AI has really in the last couple of months literally changed the whole working system of mankind, in my opinion.
Wow.
Because I mean, you're looking at how I can be very effective at creating material every day that would probably take me days to edit in the past that I can get done in minutes, and with one person that fundamentally you wouldn't have been able to do. Like,
Yeah, it is replacing those lower tier jobs, I believe. You're right.
because I mean, we'll finish up this podcast. I can take it, get 30 shorts produced, plus the editing's all done within 30 minutes of this podcast being
That's
finished.
crazy.
And it's
Wow.
all, poof, and that's all AI generated stuff.
Yeah.
So, but you have to have the material. I
Right.
think what's most important is understanding that, in an environment like this, you have to have subject matter. You have to have something of value. You have to be able to add value.
Yeah.
And then it's very easy to produce material.
Agreed. Yeah, not everyone should be starting a podcast. They
Well-
need some value to give first.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's my observation. What do you think?
No, I agree. As a podcast host myself, if there's a guest that isn't providing value, the clips don't gain as many attention eyeballs.
Right. And so you pivoted. This is so interesting. So you pivoted. You got the Donald Trump thing, ran with it. It created 6 figures, 7 figures, 6 figures.
6 figures, I think mid 6 figures, but was able to profit over 100,000 from just that one jersey alone.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so, what was the next stage for Sean? Where did he go from there?
So e-commerce margins started getting more thin. So I was
Okay.
working 18 hours a day to make not much.
Oh my goodness!
So I pivoted from the e-commerce business.
How quickly did that happen? Because I mean,
It felt quick at the time, but looking back, probably over a year, it started going down and
so
down.
you were ignoring it.
Yeah.
You could see the
Yeah.
signs, and you're like, let me just keep going.
Well, I think C19, I don't want to say the word
Oh,
because
okay.
of censorship.
Oh, really?
That screwed up the supply chain.
Okay,
So my margins got lower,
right.
and then people were scared to buy for a bit.
Okay.
But then during C19, I pivoted into selling masks and selling
very
PPE
interesting.
equipment.
And how did you get into that? Now, that's a real interesting thing because
Very interesting.
That was like there was a point there where it was almost outlawed to even have possession of that without someone else of
Yeah.
in a medical facility using that product. So
Exactly.
tell me how
It
you
was
got
crazy.
that. Yeah.
So I kept seeing these articles about hospitals and governments struggling to get PPE, and I was really confused. My mom grew up in China, so I reached out to her. She speaks Mandarin. I
Oh,
was
wow.
Like,
Do
I
you
was
speak
like,
Mandarin?
I don't, unfortunately.
Oh man.
Yeah, I want
does
to
she,
though.
Does she teach people? You know, I'm kind of like I've been dancing on it for years,
Yeah.
and I'm going to conquer Mandarin in the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, it's
Like
on my
fluid.
life. It's on my life bucket list. I'm learning Spanish right now.
Oh,
We'll be
okay.
fluent in that by the end of the year, and then I'll do Mandarin next.
I think you should with your mother as
Yeah.
you know, does she know Cantonese at all?
No, just Mandarin.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's ingrained into my very being.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, I had been given title as derogatory terms of being a Taoist priest, and there's a word, I don't know whether you're familiar with guilo. Do you know what guilo is?
No.
It's kind of like white ghost. It's kind of the N word of, you know,
Oh, okay.
and that's sort of, the people kind of look at me like, how do you do what you do? You're white. You're white.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people I've worked with throughout my career are generally Chinese or Asian descent, because they're deep into superstition. So there's a lot of elements. Like if I'm working with someone, you know, that has to deal with, you know, black magic elements that have been integrated into their life, and we can go on and on and on. But that type of stuff is steeped in their heritage, their understanding. And so they get really perplexed because they'll ask their friends, well, I need a priest to help me. And then I turn up and they're like, you set this white guy. I was like, hey, listen, I've got my name up on a wall in a Taoist monastery in China that's 1,800 years old. So it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. Well, who are you going to call, Ghostbusters or San Quentin? One of the two.
Don't judge your book by its cover, right?
That's right. 100%.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. You know, I want to keep, as our friendship develops, my friend, I'm going to keep you on the pulse of that Mandarin, because that's exciting.
Yeah, we'll stay on top of each other.
Yeah.
But anyways, I told my mom to reach out to her friends in China, see if they could get some PPE equipment.
Okay.
And we were able to talk to a few people, and they had plenty of it.
Right.
So I became really confused on why hospitals here were struggling.
Right.
So one of my best skills is I'm really good at connecting people and facilitating stuff.
Right.
I was able to facilitate $17 million of orders.
Holy moly.
Yeah. In about,
was that a profit? Was that net?
Not
or
profit.
Yeah.
It was gross revenue. Profit margins were about 10%.
That's still, holy moly.
Yeah,
That's
but all
huge.
that with nothing on my end required price wise. I didn't have to put out any money.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, just facilitation. And through that time, this was about a 6-month period where I did that. I developed some amazing skills. I learned how to cold email.
Okay.
Which I still do every day to this day.
Okay, so explain more to me what cold email is.
Yeah, so part of cold emailing is first finding the email. So I learned how to do that.
Okay.
There's a few great websites. Back then I was using ZoomInfo and Rocket Reach.
Okay.
You could get almost anyone's email.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
And this is how I get a lot of podcast guests too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Teach me seafood.
it's
Teach
great.
me.
So yeah, I still use Rocket Reach. There's one other site I use. I forgot the name, but basically there's these sites that have contact information.
Okay.
And they're pretty cheap.
Okay.
I think it's like 50 or 100 a month or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I use Apollo.io right now. That's the one I use.
Okay.
It even hooks up to LinkedIn. So if you go on someone's LinkedIn profile, you
Okay.
can pull their email from there.
Wow.
Yeah, on your Google Chrome tab. So that's the first step. And that for me was huge. Opened so many doors. Because if you have value and you can provide people value, just having their contact, you can really, accomplish a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's how I got Billy Carson on the podcast.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so how many attempts did it take before you actually got his attention?
Honestly, first one, because if you're providing so much value, if you have this many eyeballs listening to your podcast, they're going to want to share their message on your platform.
Wow.
Yeah. So once you have the value, which is the tough part, building that audience, building that product or service, whatever you do, it becomes easy to do collaborations with people from there.
Is that what they call clout? They call
I hate that word.
I don't resonate with that at all.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
I try to fight off the clout and the fame comments. I don't like that word. But yeah, with the masks, what I would do is I would have Google News alerts set up for basically if people were struggling with their supply chain issue, I would know.
Wow.
So I would see this hospital was struggling to get this.
Wow.
I would then pull the email of the whoever was in charge of procurement at the hospital or government organization and email them
Wow.
that I have access to what you're looking for.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was able to sell masks to governments,
Wow.
to NYU hospital, big hospital chains.
Holy
Yeah,
moly.
I'm talking like I sold $5 million of PPE to the state of one of the states.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like a 23-year-old
That's
kid.
amazing. That is truly amazing.
Yeah, so I learned a lot during that time.
And so the relationship that your mother had overseas was basically intricate to.
Yeah, she knew someone high up at one of the biggest PPE manufacturers in China.
Holy moly.
Yeah, so that's another thing. It's all about relationships,
Yeah.
connections.
Yeah.
And for the first 3 years of my life, I locked myself in my dorm room or my bedroom, and I didn't build relationships.
Right.
So that's why I was sort of stagnant those first 3 years of entrepreneurship.
Right.
Making
right.
$50K a year because I wasn't going to networking events, conferences, anything.
Yeah. It's state of mind, my
Yeah.
friend. State of mind. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so what blossomed from that? This cold email.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? Cold email.
Cold email when you don't know each other, it's called a cold email. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. And so this is sort of like the backbone of creating your network. Is you've created this incredible empire, which is evident.
Yeah.
You've got a large audience of people that are listening to what you're saying, and then you use the cold email to reach out to some people that you may not necessarily be able to get access to. Because I mean, I've kind of like entered the social media world only with a cause. My cause is to awaken people's consciousness and give them the tools so they can be the biggest, baddest mofos in the face of the earth and realize how powerful they are as individuals. And so I created an app that does exactly that and can give you your consciousness where you need it right now.
Yeah.
And so visual, audible, kinesthetic response, and you instantly get that from the app.
Exactly.
So I was like, okay, I don't like social media. I'm not a social media person. How do I get into it? So I sort of slowly moved in over time, creating some situations, reaching out to people, getting on incredible podcasts like yourself.
Yeah.
And, you kind of like, it's like a progression, but it's not something that I would want to do. And now I've realized that it's basically one of the most powerful tools to get your message out, or the most powerful tool.
I can't think of anything better. And with your product or app, it's so valuable, and I've never seen anything like it.
Right.
I don't think you'll have issues promoting it.
Right. And it's important because the most important thing is when you get a result, you're the one that validates. I can go on and on and on. Oh, guess what, Sean? You're going to see stars coming out of the sky, and all these spirits are going to be around you, and all this amazing means nothing. What has to happen is you have to validate it, and you have to realize it as true to you.
Yeah.
And so none of that means anything until you experience it. And that physical feeling that you get is the validator.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important. When I integrate those ancient tools in there, you get that realization. Like, I feel this. My whole body's like oscillating.
That's
and
awesome.
I feel like I'm in a vacation for 5 days in the Bahamas drinking pina coladas. That's a validation. It's like, it's undisputed because it's happening to you. How else is it going on? That is the first point of consciousness.
I love that. I have a productivity hack that I do. I keep like a to-do list.
Okay.
And I'm going to add your app to it.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
make sure I do it at least 5 days a week.
Yeah, you're going to see some transformation instantly.
Yeah.
And really get an idea of how powerful you are, because it generates a very tangible shift in your consciousness and your intention. And so within the Taoist practices, we develop these skills where you use Nigong, which is basically training yourself to move energy with your mind. And it becomes very palpable that you put your intention to whatever it is that you do. So moving your emotional state is very easy. That's like the first thing. Like if we were like revisiting Karate Kid, this would be it. Oh, we start simple, and then people are like, hang on, emotions don't control me. No, they don't. No, they're just passing like a conveyor belt. You're standing there, you watch the conveyor belt go past. Which one do I want? Which one don't I want? And it's like that compelling moment of realizing that, and you become really powerful at it, where it just doesn't even exist. You zap it. It's like boom, gone. Okay, moving right along, because your state of consciousness is when you're at that higher gamma frequency. If I had to measure you with an EEG when you're the most successful at what you do and you're laser focused, you're running gamma like nobody's business, which is a high hertz frequency, where you get, there's like literally 1 to 2% of the population run that type of frequency, but then 1 to 2% of the population are the majority of the entrepreneurs and the successful people in the world today.
Wow.
And so they're running that all day long in that 40 hertz sort of frequency. They're not aware they're doing it. They just are. They're like, boom. I put my mind to it. It happens.
Yeah, I love that. Especially the emotional part, because that's something I learned last year.
Right.
And most people let their emotions control themselves.
Yeah.
But now whenever I feel one, I try to decide if I should
right.
let this continue or...
Yeah, well, you're gonna zap it once you're done with the Way 126, and then you can go on to some more crazy manifestating in a fourth or fifth dimension, because it's being aware that you're in that state.
Right.
What that app does is it puts you instantly into 5D reality. So you're like, hang on a second, what? Yeah, shoot your manifestation out, shoot your healing out, shoot your magic out, whatever it is, and it will happen because you're there. You're one with everything.
That's awesome.
And so that's the key part.
Yeah.
So you get to this part where you're now, you seem to be the pimp selling masks all over the world. Wow, well, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was a crazy journey. And then C19 ended, so I had to pivot. But I was able to take those skills that I learned, and those skills can be applied in any business.
Wow.
So I applied it to a few things from there. I got into sports cards for a bit. So I was selling a bunch of sports cards to sports card shops. Now I'm using it with the podcast to get guests, to get sponsors, to get partnerships. And I see the podcast really taking off.
I can see your empire just percolating right in front of my very eyes. And it's inspiring. It's inspiring to see someone, especially someone like yourself, that is so grounded and so personable and so relatable, because most people tend to, it's almost like an evidentiary sort of, like you get to a point where you've achieved a goal, now you're not relatable anymore, and they lose sight of their reality.
Yeah, there's been some guests that are like billionaires, but they can't have that relatable factor on the show, so they can't really articulate their message in the proper way.
Right. And I've seen some. I noticed you're such you're like the woo. You're the wooing guy. You're the muse. So when you're sitting there and you're talking to someone, you're like, here's your opportunity to get whatever it is out.
Yeah.
And then probably 70% of them do, and then there's like that 30% where it's like, okay, I'll give you another. Hang on, one more time.
Yeah.
Let's just pause for a second. Here's another opportunity. And they're like, and you just watch and you're like, he's just done it for you again. He's ushering you in another opportunity to speak it. And then it's like, here's one more. Yeah. And you're very easy on the ears, very, 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 very grounded. And it's great to see the way you interact. It makes it painless. Yeah. Because some people I notice with podcasts, it's painful.
Tough to listen to, right?
It's and they'll do thousands of them, and even when they're only getting one view a podcast, they're still like, I'll do another one.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that is I operate from a comfortable position. A lot of podcast hosts, they're relying on the podcast as their source of income to live off of, right? But for me, I've made my money. I don't need that. Right. I'm losing money on the podcast right now.
Wow.
But that's not eating at me in the back of my head. And I think just having that comfortability helps a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I can see very clearly this is going to turn into a multimedia, like exponential experience for you. Your success is going to ripple out tenfold of whatever you thought it was going to be.
And we share a same vision, which is to raise the human consciousness, which I just decided like recently after talking to Sebastian and a few other spiritual people that's part of what I want to do with the podcast too.
Yeah, it was sort of like something that you may not have been aware of, but I've felt from anything that I've watched of your past that's what you were doing anyway. So innately that was sort of like a message that you may not have consciously been aware of, but you were doing it anyway.
I didn't notice until after you and Matthias and a few others. I was like, I'm kind of doing this now.
Yeah. It's really, really powerful stuff, and it's stuff that you love.
I love it,
and it shows in the way you interact with people and how you share with people, and that message is critical for everyone to get the most out of their life.
Yeah, and Sebastian was saying the human consciousness has been lowered recently from 5 or 10 points or something.
Yeah.
So I really want to get us back to where we used to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're bringing it. You see, you're creating that intention, and that has a rippling effect that instantly creates manifestation, that you're drawing these energies to you, which is sort of fundamentally how this type of stuff works. Is understanding the ebb and flow of the universe. And when you start from like a proton with that black hole and it's interconnected all the way up to mitochondria, you're interconnected within the field.
Yeah.
And the only time you're not is when you're in your head. You're always there. So it's like it's happening instantaneously. When you have the best day of your life and you're on it and everything syncs, that's it. It's as simple as that. You're doing it. You're doing it instantly. And that ability to manifest, now you start cultivating specific skills so that you're aware at will. That's all it takes. And so that's a matter of practicing and cultivating certain practices that give you the ability to move the energy how you want, but it has the same effect, which is really powerful in what you're doing already.
Yeah, can't wait to get more into it, honestly.
Yeah. We'll get right into it. We'll take you to the ends, give you everything you need.
That's what I like about you, because you get right to it, man. Like some people, they like to drag you along for years or whatever. You get right to it. I like that.
Yeah, no, it's important. It's important. It's like the whole demystifying, debunking, it's over. It's important because I've always been taught from my teachers, the student is the teacher is the student. And so the more you share, the more you receive. It's as simple as that. So there is a moment when you get into alternative healing where people are like, man, I just got this thing where I'm noticing I can like move my hands around and the energy shifts in somebody and it looks like a miracle, or I manifested something. And then they want to hold it close to them and they're like, I don't want anyone else to be Jesus Christ, because that's the scary part. They're like, no one else can be the healer. And the realization is we all do it. We all have the ability.
Yeah.
And so when you start to just fundamentally let go of that fear that you're going to be less of, and realize that we're all one, then magic starts taking place. And then you could start just at will, anything and everything you could ever imagine like that.
Wow.
And so,
powerful.
Well, so you got this you got this bug, and now you're at podcasting. You went past the mass. Where did you go? So you went to the mass. What made you decide that you wanted to do podcasting, or were you at that point still building up social media, or?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do a podcast. I actually attempted one when I was much younger, maybe 19, 20, but I didn't have the value to give at the time.
Okay.
Didn't have the connections with the guests I wanted at the time.
Right.
So it's always been something I wanted to do. And then started again at the start of this year.
Okay.
I made it my mission this year when January started. No more excuses. I'm going all in.
Wow.
So just put myself in the fire, put myself in the ringer. First few episodes, I was terrible. But that's how it is, you know. You start off and then you get better. And now, like, I've just been learning from all the podcast greats. I study the Lex Friedmans. I study the Rogans. Always taking notes.
And so you had a sort of like a duo thing at one point. Were you just feeling your way out where you had like I'm not going to call, I don't want to sound derogatory, a sidekick or someone else that was on the podcast with you? Was that just initially how you were doing things, or are you still doing that right now?
Yeah, I've had on like 3 or 4 co-hosts, just sort of testing what works.
Right, okay.
At first, my idea behind it was someone that was more funny. Because I'm more straight to the point, asking the serious questions. So someone for like comedic relief.
Okay.
But then it got to the point where some of the hosts were just talking too much and not giving the guests their time.
Right.
So that was like a pet peeve of mine. And we went separate ways from there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's interesting. You watch that. It's kind of like, do you know when to be quiet? Just for a second. It's an interesting thing because that goes on a lot. Like I see a lot of people where they literally, as someone who's watching it, you're like, please just take a breath so you can get the information out of that person.
Yeah, I see the comments, I see the facial reaction of some of the guests, like, you know, it's like, let me just take over.
Would you say that's the biggest pitfall for podcasters, is they can't shut up?
It's one of them, yeah, because it should be about the guest you're bringing on, not yourself. You have plenty of episodes to get across other messages, but when the guest is there, I really wanted to make it about them.
Right. And so you went through that. You went through your co-hosts. That was not working for you. Now you
Yeah.
have different studios that you work from. What's the dynamic there? How does that work?
Yeah, I've tested out a few. Just like I said, I threw myself in the fire. First, I was at some studio that used iPhones to film,
Okay.
which was, a good experience. Then I moved to another one that was a new one, and now I'm at Blue Wire. But each one has their benefits, I'd say.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you felt like you needed to go with a company. What was the driving force that you didn't do what a lot of people do, like rig their house up and go to town?
Well, house I like to keep private for the most part.
Sure.
I got 2 dogs, and I really like to protect the energy there.
Yes, very good.
Yeah.
I love that.
And it's honestly really far from the strip anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, not as far as this, but
Yeah.
yeah. So that was the main reason. Plus, I like to keep business and personal kind of separate.
Yeah.
And Blue Wire was great because it's at the Wynn.
Okay.
People are walking in and out. There's big shows that film there. I like to put myself in areas where I can network, meet people, and that's why I go to conferences, and that's why I like to film at Blue Wire too.
Okay. So what's the process in Blue Wire? Is that something that you approach them, they approach you, or what happened there?
I first approached them. I have a few friends that film there. Before I started the podcast, I wanted to film there, but it was just too expensive. So I told myself, let me build the numbers up and see if they give me a better deal.
Okay.
And that's sort of the strategy I take with a lot of things I do in life.
Yeah.
Let the numbers talk. So I did that. Then I re-engaged with them. I believe 4 or 5 months later, they gave me a much better deal.
Okay.
And now I'm with them.
All right. And so is that a mutual agreement, or is it a contractual agreement, or is it just you using the facility?
Yeah, me using it. They are sending a formal agreement, but my word is pretty much a contract when I go into business with someone.
Okay.
So I don't ever like to promise things and not deliver.
Right. Oh, that's a beautiful thing. That's an incredible characteristic that very few people have. Their words don't really mean much.
These days it's tough. Yeah, a lot of people will just say anything, and
Right.
if people do that to me and they do it a few times, I actually usually cut them off.
Wow.
Because I don't want that around me.
Yeah. We're talking about energy again, right?
Yeah.
So now you've sort of like you've been here for a while. You're living the Las Vegas dream. You've got your podcasts going on, and that would fundamentally be the goal for you right now. So the money and success you feel like you've accomplished, and now you're moving on to something that is more fulfilling, nurturing.
Pretty much. Money's almost where I want it to be. I'd say I need a little more to be perfectly comfortable, but I'm at a great level, especially for my age. Became a millionaire at 24, I believe.
Amazing.
So, yeah, money's great. And now, money used to be the main thing.
Right.
It was the main reason I got into business. Now it's probably shifting down.
That's really profound,
Yeah.
my friend. That really is, because, I mean, you're at a time in life, not that you haven't heard this before, but in my opinion, you're extremely evolved for someone of your age. And I'm very careful with the words I use. I'm not talking mature. I'm not patting you on the back like I'm some condescending senior.
Yeah.
That's not where it works. It's about valuing an individual for their own life experience. So many people tell me, hey, you need to respect this person. They're 80 years old. That's wisdom. No. Take a look at the president. I'm just kidding. It really, I mean, you cannot validate things when you look at it from an age perspective.
Interesting.
It's really important to realize that your evolution can happen instantaneous. It has nothing to do with how many seconds you've been on the earth.
I like that, because people always do say to respect seniors, and I mean, you should, but the knowledge could be in people that are 20 years old.
Absolutely. You're right. Just as you have gathered all this realization and valuable viewpoint of your reality, and now you're bringing it into everything you're sharing with everyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very inspiring.
It is, and I attribute a lot of it to just the podcast, because I'm having on amazing guests like yourself and other people every week, and it's just taking bits and pieces from everyone. It's really inspiring, honestly.
Yeah. And so what do you think your favorite podcast is?
Ooh, that's tough. Yours was definitely up there, man. Not even trying to say that because you're right here, but I'd say you, Matthias De Stefano. I really liked Gary Brecka
Right.
because I'm huge into health.
Okay, so yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so let's talk about now. Let's finish. I'm not going to interrupt you. What was you still? You said Gary Bracken.
Gary and then his wife Sage Workinger. Those are probably my Mount Rushmore right now.
Okay, and so now we're talking about health. This is interesting because I have a really deep understanding of that integrated. They don't call me seafood for nothing. So understanding the mechanics of the human being, and how it works in relation to stress, exercise, all that kind of good stuff. What's important to you? Why do you say that you're into health?
Yeah, so I took a gene test and I took a blood test, learned a lot about my body.
Okay.
Prior to this, I'd never taken a gene test, and I've
Okay.
never taken an in-depth blood test like this one.
Okay.
So I found out I'm allergic to pretty much gluten.
Okay.
In my whole life, I was eating that. So
Right.
I think that was causing a lot of stuff I wasn't even realizing.
Okay. Yeah.
Also found out my testosterone was low and I was deficient in certain vitamins.
Right.
So I like to treat everything naturally and holistically.
Yes.
I don't like to get prescriptions or those testosterone shots.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. That seems to be very popular. We'll get back to that. In a
Yeah,
second.
it does. But yeah, I treated everything naturally, back to great levels now. Haven't been sick since I took the test,
Oh,
which was about a
fantastic.
year ago. Which is, I used to get sick every week
Oh,
because
wow.
I have a low white blood cell count genetically.
Okay.
I think a lot of Asians do.
Okay.
But yeah, been feeling great.
And so, what was your approach? How did you achieve to bring up your levels? For example, testosterone. What did you do for that?
Yeah, there's this natural root, Tonkat something.
Right.
I forget the name. It's like #1 on Amazon.
Is it Tonka Ali or something?
Yeah,
like
Ali.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I take 2 pills of that a day. It's all natural.
And what's your free testosterone at? Oh, maybe you don't want to say. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, but before I was in the red.
Okay.
It was super low. And
What
now
is- what is the red though? Because I mean, the realization of testosterone these days is sort of like
yeah, like there was a graph and I guess it measures everyone and I was at the
for
very,
your age.
Yeah. I
Right.
think it might have been for my age, but either way I was at the very bottom.
Okay.
Like
All
on the
right.
line pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you've got it up there. Is it reflected on your
Yeah, reflective on my health. Haven't been sick since. I never realized how important testosterone was.
right?
Yeah, so that's been great.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
And so, what else did you supplement or address per se? Like,
Yeah, had some vitamin C deficiencies, I think B12, so just taking natural vitamins, highest quality ones.
Right.
That's something I used to cheap out on.
Right.
I used to try to cheap out on health and buy like cheap food and supplements, but now I go with the best brands.
So, what triggered you to become obsessed with health?
I guess the Gary and Sage episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But just like in terms of business too, you just perform better. And also I started playing in a few basketball leagues and I'm very competitive.
All right.
So I want to be
okay.
the best there. But yeah, it's changed my diet up a bit. Don't eat anything fried. I try to avoid processed food.
So
Try to
you're-
avoid sugar.
So you're a seed oil.
I avoid seed oils as
Yeah.
much as possible. It's tough when you eat out. There is an app though that I use.
Okay. What's the app?
It's called Seed Oil Scout. So it'll tell you all the restaurants nearby and if they use seed oils or not.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got to check that out.
The guy
I mean,
had to stay anonymous because
Yeah,
he's
I
scared
mean-
of like big pharma coming after him.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's not really a conspiracy. The reality is it's going to destroy the degradation of your mitochondria. I mean, that's the whole purpose of it. It's like
Yeah.
basically seed oil is like cement.
Yeah, and I noticed a lot of spiritual people are vegetarians. Are you vegetarian?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would call myself plant-based, vegetarian, whatever. I don't really eat anything that has a mother.
Okay.
You know.
Because you consider that life energy that you're consuming.
Well, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, you don't want to take the life of anything.
Right.
You know, that's more a Taoist thing. But, you know, ultimately, when you really look at it, it all comes right down to understanding that this all comes from the earth. You can still acquire it without having to take the life of anything.
Interesting. Yeah, because I know when people go on ayahuasca retreats, they make you go vegan, vegetarian for 10 days before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It sort of adds to what we call sort of creating the body's flute. You become very hollow so that the energy can flow more easily through you. And so people will sort of like take less. And so we get into the category of fasting. We get into all the magic that happens when you eat certain types of foods, what sort of gene expression you want. So let's talk about your gene expression. You said that you got your genes.
Got my genes. Yeah, so found out I was allergic to gluten and there was one more gene deficiency or break, I think they called it. I forget which one it was, but it was very interesting to see. Now I'm told you could change some genes, right?
Oh,
through meditation.
I mean, this is my bag. So epigenetics, which is understanding that you are the product of your environment, your thoughts change your reality. You can switch on and off your genes with your thoughts alone. So your DNA is being altered at will instantly. So you can shift and change anything you want. Never be concerned. Like, that was one thing that I had a little reservation about when people talk about Gary Bracker is that he goes, I can tell you when you're going to die. That to me is a no-no.
Yeah, he was saying if you maintain the current lifestyle and mindset that you're on right now, I think that's what he meant.
Yeah, well, it's more fundamentally deeper than that. Like, I've spent a lot of time dealing with people because words are basically the inner core of who you are. And so that linguistics, the neurology, the symbols, the words are affecting your DNA instantaneously.
Oh, so you're saying if you're told that, then you're
the placebo effect is dramatic. Nocebo, the whole deal, it gets deep.
Wow.
And I've watched people literally be given a diagnosis from someone that they've decided is an authoritarian.
Yeah.
And they're dead in a couple of weeks.
Really?
As opposed to someone who may have a different view, and they're both the same disease. I've got cancer.
Yeah.
One guy said, I'm going to beat it. The other guy said, I'm going to beat it. 6 months later, one person was alive, one person was dead.
Wow.
And that is so important, the core of your belief system and how you're operating. It goes real deep. So when someone tells you that, I learned this many, many decades ago when I first started to do like past, present, and future life readings, that I could tell people, hey, this is when you're going to... I did that once, and then I stopped doing it.
Really?
And the person died to the second on the day that I said.
Oh, shit. Are you serious?
It's kind of freaky. And so I refuse to circumvent someone's realization of their own reality, because you can change it at will.
Wow.
And how you construct things that really come from here, that you would believe is from here, is immediate. This is the whole power of your ability to be in tune with the frequency of the universe. So it's really important how you perceive things. So when I always tell people the truth is only what you believe, it's really that simple.
That's fascinating. So you believe you could beat cancer just through thought?
Oh, I don't believe it. I know it. I've seen it. I've seen it many times. I've had people I've worked with that were given diagnosis from Stanford University that they had breast cancer. They came to me and I said, no, you don't.
Really?
Like, that's a tall order for you to say that. Initially, fundamentally, I'm working with them already, but they were given this diagnosis. And then they came back after they spent 2 weeks in complete pain and suffering, fearing the imminent death because they were given the diagnosis they had cancer. They met me. I told them, you don't have it. And they're like, excuse me? And I said, go back to the doctor. They went back to the doctor and they would say, oh, we got the wrong blood work. I'm sorry. That was a mistake.
No way.
But that could be the fundamental shift in someone's life or death situation. And so what you put in here and how you're given that information is critical to the rippling effects of what happens to that person.
Wow.
So it's really important what you say to people and how they perceive their reality. And, that is the most valuable component to your realization is your truth, no one else's.
It's powerful. Yeah, it's crazy. They put them through chemo and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, and whatever is necessary to reinforce your belief system, and understand that that's as simple as that. It begins and ends there. Someone can cure themselves if they have a realization that goes up and beyond, equal to or greater than what they're experiencing.
Fascinating.
And so you're getting into that much deeper understanding. I'm really excited to hear more. So when you had this realization with Sebastian about this consciousness aspect, what was it that inspired you from what he said that made you feel more?
Well, he said some author found a way to measure the human consciousness levels.
Right.
And it was lowered by 5 or 10 points in recent times. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. Yeah. We need to get back to where we were. And he was mentioning HEBs, highly intelligent beings or something like that.
Right.
With the alien stuff.
Right.
And that was really interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, aliens are an interesting energy and entity, and they're all. I think we briefly went over it when we were on our podcast. It's like They're real.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what are you accessing them for, how, when, and who. And so, that stuff is sort of like a much deeper level. Like, we talk about things like, Atlantis.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one, because there's so many relevant parts where people say that existed or didn't exist. And so it's like, okay, well, it's your truth. I mean, I can channel any energy or spirit at will. That's not the problem. It's, okay, well, what is that validated information? How does that work for you and your experience? That's the most important thing.
How do you feel about channeling spirits of deceased ones
Fine.
that were in your life?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a great way to feel a grounding and a connection of completion, because human beings inherently, when they start something, they have to finish it. When you lose something, for you to gain it, there's a completion that needs to take place. So if you're in yearn or want to which in most cases this situation would take place because someone is like, I lost my family member, best friend, whatever, and I was never able to tell them I love them. And that's a completion, and that's absolutely a beautiful thing. And
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely, they're always around.
Wow. And what do you think about people that teach that suicide is a sin? People that commit it go to hell.
Again, they're working in a duality, and I would say, hey, that's your truth, and I appreciate that, and I value the fact that you believe that. But you're also going to gravitate. That kind of energy is going to come at you full force. That's what you're manifesting. That's what you're creating in your reality.
Right.
And so, I mean, taking of anyone's life, any situation I've dealt with where people have actually taken their own lives, they always regret it. Always.
They regret it.
They always come back to me and they're like, hang on, this was just a dream. I want, let me back in. I was just joking.
Wow.
And it's unfortunately not possible. That's where they kind of become earthbound. And then you have to deal with this sort of earthbound spirit that has to go through a cycle of realization, and then they'll sort of go off to the light and come back as a divine being.
How long are they earthbound for on average?
It really varies on the experience. It varies. There's one specific person that I dealt with many years ago who's still earthbound.
Dang.
And she was very happy to take her life.
Wow.
And she's, I don't regret it at all, but I'm not going anywhere.
Huh.
It's kind of an interesting, and this person was, you got to understand on face value, I probably was working with them for a better part of 12 or 15 years, and I was the only reason why they didn't take their life. And so when they took their life, and this is someone who had hundreds of millions of dollars, it wasn't like,
whoa,
oh yeah, look, I'm struggling, no, I was the reason, and I felt my obligation to be part of their life, to keep them inspired to want to do something greater. And no matter how much you circumvent that, those low vibrational energies are going to start persuading you with the idea of. And generally speaking, that particular person spent a lot of their life in insomnia, where they were getting little to no sleep, which elevated their connection with these low vibrational energies, which the echoing sounds of a good idea seem good at the moment, but of course they're not. And then you can't come back from that.
Yeah. So sleep is super important then.
It is very important. It's important to nourish yourself in every which way or form. This human body is your anchor to this realm, even though you're a spirit. And that can be measured in all different types of ways. When people are like, prove to me God is real. Okay. I don't know. Do you really want to see it? And I have no problems. But it's like most people are like, no. Yeah. So why ask the question then?
I think people just want proof or evidence, but it's not really possible, to record that.
Well, it is when you get an experience of an absolute energetic shift where you feel the energy and the frequency, the vibration of that being enter your physical body, into the space that you're in. You have a whole nother awareness. Right. And that's a realization where it's like, this is real.
Yeah. And people get those with near-death experiences, right?
Or they ask me to help them out. It's just a matter of accessing it.
Yeah.
Everyone should be able to channel.
Mm.
It's really important. And, if you allow me, I'll be more than happy to teach you that.
Yeah,
And
I'd love to.
It's like a fear thing. Sometimes people are like, yeah, I do. Maybe next week. Yeah, I do. Maybe next month. And it really comes to your realizing how powerful you are. And you get to a certain degree where I'm okay with it. I'm ready.
Mm.
And, there is no right or wrong. There's no like, oh, it has to happen tomorrow. Well, no, next week, next year, or maybe the next 5 minutes. It's when you're just like, I'm completely at one with everything. Let's go. And you'll have that moment,
Nice. Can't wait.
Yeah. And so we've gone through all this spirituality thing. You've traveled from Jersey all the way out here to Las Vegas. You're living the dream.
Mm-hmm.
You're an incredibly successful entrepreneur. You've just, in my opinion, started your life. This is an amazing achievement.
Yeah, I want to travel the world more.
Okay.
I've been to about 13 countries, but I want to do maybe 100.
All right.
Because I love experiencing other cultures, see how other people live, and I think you gain a lot of wisdom when you travel.
Oh, yeah. I mean, gaining information, it's like gathering. This is the problem with social media is people gather information, they don't actually absorb it.
Yeah.
It's the thinking to knowing type of
I know
methodology.
people that read books every day, but they don't actually apply it. I know what you mean.
Right. And so you've hit this pinnacle. You're at the podcasting sort of epicenter. How did you develop such a huge following? Across all platforms, how many people do you think you have?
Yeah, across everything, it's got to be close to 11 million.
Holy moly.
Yeah.
And so what was the strategy that you had to achieve that?
Yeah, so goes back to the jersey company. I would try to get custom jerseys in the hands of every celebrity, and then
Right.
they would post and tag me. So that's how I grew at first. Then it turned into just speaking at business conferences, going on other podcasts, starting my own. I think starting my own will be what takes me from 10 to 50 million.
Wow.
Because the
I can
views,
see that.
Yeah, the
I can
views
see
we're
that.
getting are just mind blowing, and I'm
Right.
just getting started.
Now, is that where do you get that reflection from? Instagram, Spotify?
Instagram's the most. We're getting about 100 million views a month just on Instagram. And
that's absolutely that's nuts.
It's crazy.
That's changing someone's life. That's why you inspire me and you get me very excited because that's changing people's lives.
Yeah.
Every single view.
No, it is. I see the comments every day, and it's like, whether it's health, spiritual, business, I'm changing at least one life a day. It's crazy.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And then, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook Reels is good. You should start posting there.
Right.
Yeah, that's it for now.
Right. And so you've got the Instagram. What do you think of Instagram in of itself? Out of all the social media companies, what do you think is the most successful one for you?
In terms of views, Instagram, but I think in terms of payouts, YouTube will pay the most eventually.
Right.
Because the long form views are where you make your money.
I see.
Yeah.
So what's that? You want to monetize the?
You get paid on the views on YouTube, and also Spotify and Apple.
Okay.
But I'm just treating that money to invest in the podcast.
Right
back into it.
Right. So views wise, what's the infrastructure of that? I've never really looked at it. I look at social media as a vehicle, but I don't actually look at it as, I kind of feel like it's free marketing in my opinion.
Yeah, I treat the views as, when I see a video get a lot of views, I study it and I try to determine why. And then I find out why. And then say if it's a doctor, I'll reach out to doctors that have altering opinions to the one that got a lot of views. Then I'll have that person on the podcast.
Oh, wow.
So I like to get everyone's perspective, and I'm sort of just staying in the middle ground.
Very, very good.
Yeah.
Very, very good. And so the Instagram thing, do you think it's picking up or it's dying off, or how? What's the
They
current?
just released Threads. Did you see that?
Yeah, I kind of got involved with it, but I don't
Yeah.
really. I mean, I never resonated with Twitter. It's kind of like this weird.
I
type
wasn't
of
a
thing.
fan of Twitter also. And
Yeah.
it seems like Threads is already dying off pretty quick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the engagement's down a lot. I mean, Instagram's been around for a while, so I think they'll always have a place. Same with YouTube.
Yeah.
But we just got to stay on top of whatever's new, because they always release new features, and that's when you have to take advantage,
Okay.
because that's when there's the most eyeballs. Like Reels was hot for like a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
But the human attention span is so short now. If you're not keeping people entertained, they just drift away.
Right, and that's an interesting neurology sort of like mechanism, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you attribute the human attention span to?
I'd say TikTok played a role. I'd say social media as a whole. I mean, now they're saying it's 3 seconds,
Interesting.
so it's lower than a goldfish.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It used to be 7, I think, a few years ago.
It's kind of like the mindset. I'm always take a moment to step back when you hear anything, because you can instantly enter into a psyop that you're not even aware of. So it's like someone says something, then you validate it as true because someone said something. It's like, okay, well, the attention span's 3 seconds. Says who?
Yeah, that's true. And that's something I struggled a lot with.
Right.
Just believing people like immediately.
Right.
But I've been trying to get.
Yeah.
Oh, you said not to use trying.
Yeah,
Getting
yeah.
better.
And I mean, it's an interesting, powerful word, because I go through linguistics with people. I apart from all the ancient Taoist practices, I'll teach people graphology or linguistics per se.
Mm-hmm.
We can go deeper into other ways to access the unconscious.
Yeah.
But you use simple things like an ideomotor process. I don't know whether you're familiar with that.
I don't. I know about the reticular activating system, but I haven't heard that one.
So the reticular activating system is kind of like just a fancy word for your unconscious. You drop in the information and it responds to it. So you go, I want to see red cars. Okay. And you'll start seeing red cars. It's
every time.
It's like that quick.
Yeah, it is.
So ideomotor is like basically you're using the funneling of your neurology to speak the message through your action. So you can get your unconscious to speak to you immediately. Some people will use like muscle testing, or some people have tarot cards reading, or they'll use other instruments that transmute the information to a piece of paper.
Interesting.
Some people will use Ouija boards, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that's how you will receive it, and you will receive it instantly.
Wow. Yeah, I've done tarot card readings. I was always skeptical of those, though, to be honest.
Did they resonate?
It did, but I've only done it once or twice.
Right.
So I feel like, and also they tell you stuff that's pretty broad, I feel like. So it's how you take it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's sort of like fundamentally the problem.
Yeah.
And then you end up with people like yourself going, I'm kind of skeptical. You need to be able to validate it yourself.
Yeah.
And so, like with anything, there's good and bad. As long as you're operating in a duality, you're gonna have good and bad tarot card readers. But people that really get into that frequency and they understand that information is coming through them, it's just gonna come right out.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is you sort of come to this point. You've traveled all this way. You've got here in Las Vegas. You're achieving all these incredible goals with the podcast. What do you see for the future for Sean Kelly?
Inspiring, educating. Hate the public education system.
Right.
It was terrible. I mean, I got what I could out of it. I mean, I was bullied. Most people get bullied, and I feel like it just destroys them.
Right.
But for me, it made me better. But just overall, I don't like what they teach in school.
Right.
I didn't feel like there was any real knowledge that could be applied in business and life, and just a waste of time for the most part, in my opinion.
Right.
So part of what I want to do with the podcast is teach people things they could utilize in the real world.
Right. Isn't that interesting? Academia is sort of like fading quickly. Just the realization that, information can come anywhere in any way, shape, or form. And the idea that you could just say your truth is the only truth. People, when I say that, it incites some rippling effects in authoritarian type of behavior, where, well, what I think is valid, but what you think isn't, which is kind of interesting, which is the...
People always like to argue and debate, but...
Yeah, I've stepped away from even entering. It's funny, you stay away from it, and so it's almost like you let your subscribers deal with it. I just step back and someone jumps in and goes, "Hey, you don't say that." I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, it's something you got to deal with when we talk about controversial topics. I read the comments and I see them, but yes.
And what do you think the most controversial topic was for you?
Mateus was the most controversial guest so far.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there was a lot of hate, a lot of doubters. But the thing I
Wow.
like about him is he doesn't care.
Yeah, well,
He doesn't let it get to him.
They haven't seen my episode yet.
Yours will definitely be up there. Yeah, there's people that don't even believe in exorcisms.
Right,
So
right.
they all
And
think it's Hollywood.
And that's the beautiful part. It's like, it'll take me a second to show you.
Yeah.
And that's the part that people get kind of confused about, because spirituality has become this huge, like, what do you call it? Action button these days. Meditation, spirituality, realizing, consciousness, all that kind of stuff is now becoming kind of like normalized.
It is.
And you're not getting the stigma of someone like completely, punishing you. And I get that. I get a lot of people who are like, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Look to Jesus. And I'm like, hey, I like JC. I've worked with him a lot. I work with him a lot when it comes into the when he comes in the field of people's energy. Whenever you're dealing with a healing of any kind, JC, God, in all ways, shapes, or form, they're incredible energies. They're so powerful.
Yeah.
That, the idea that that's the only way you can perceive your reality is one way is the misconception. And I think a lot of people get very fearful because they're limited by. I love religion. I love going to temples. One of my favorite, and this is people, I'm going to get hate for this, Joel Osteen. Love that guy. When you understand how people channel, that dude is doing it all day, every day.
Wow.
And when you get him up on the stage, you can watch his energy and aura change, and you'll see, if you can't visually see the aura, watch his eyes start to flicker. He's running the juice like nobody's business. It's coming right out instantly. Just watch it, and people will be like, he's a hack, he's a this, he's a that. He creates an environment where people believe in something, and that's the most important thing. Whatever that is, it's their belief system. It's not for you to tell someone how to believe, what to believe. It's for them to believe. If they believe in Jesus, if they believe in God, that's the most powerful way. That's how it should be. It's not, oh no, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. Unfortunately, I think with religion, it gets dirty because people want to sort of, this is my football team, not your football team, and that's the
they take it personal.
Yeah. And what about you? Up to this point, did you have any type of faith or belief system where you were involved in some type of practice?
Yeah, I went on an interesting path. Started off Christian as a kid.
Okay.
Mom took me to church. We stopped going when I was, I think, in middle school. Then I went through that weird phase where a lot of kids say they're atheist.
Right, yeah.
Which was stupid looking back on that. So did that for a few years.
Yeah.
Now I'm not tied to anyone specific, but I would say I'm trying to be, I got to stop saying that word.
Yeah.
I'm more spiritual, like just in general.
Right, yeah. And you'll see when you're on it, when you're channeling your craft and you're on point, there's no indecisive language coming from your mouth or your mind. It's clear. I mean, you go straight into senses, the five senses. So when I ask you to say your name without your mouth open, you hear it.
Yeah.
You say it. How is that possible? Because you're entering access where you can say it without speaking. You can see it without seeing. You can hear it without hearing. You're already leveling up on your senses right there. You already got 3 more. You didn't even try.
Wow. Interesting.
And so that's a level of consciousness right in of itself. And that awareness is really powerful. You take that immediately. And people just do it, and they don't think anything of it, but it's an access point instantaneously. And they're like, holy moly, yeah, you're adding you just leveled up instantly in your senses.
Nice. It's good to know. Keep that in mind.
Right. And so, separating stuff, you don't have to. You're already doing it. And so what have you gravitated to the most in your conscious pursuit? What has been the most rewarding?
Rewarding. I think just being a good person. I used to be negative because that's the household environment I grew up in, and I didn't even realize I was putting that energy to other people. So I was, putting it on my girlfriend, putting it on my friends.
Right.
So just being positive, being a good person, good energy. That's sort of the big shift I've made.
Okay.
Once I moved out of the house.
And so what was that? What was that point? When did you realize that?
My girlfriend would just tell me, like, why are you always so pessimistic, negative with certain things? And I'm like, dang, I got this from my parents and I didn't even realize. Like, I thought this was normal.
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean? Because you don't even know.
Yeah.
And it took me years to get out of that mindset, honestly.
Right.
Because
And how did you do it?
just surrounding myself with the right people, watching the right content, listening, trying to give up my ego as much as I could. But yeah, my dad was the most pessimistic guy. I love him, but most pessimistic guy ever. Dealt with a lot of trauma. His father beat him up physically his whole childhood.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, living on a farm. And he just never, I guess, forgave his parents. He ran away from home and never saw them again.
Wow.
And that just ate at him every day. And I even saw it in his later years. He passed away, but yeah, it just ate at him. And the night his mother passed away, she came to me in my dream, which has never happened to me before.
Amazing.
And I was holding her hand and we were trying to find my dad.
Wow.
She wanted to say goodbye to him.
So that was your epic moment into sort of like a spiritual awakening.
Yeah, because that's not a coincidence. That doesn't
No, my friend. And that's like, that's an opening. That's a huge opening. And that type of channeling, you can do that at will all day, every day, just with a little training.
Yeah, and I even told him about it. He didn't believe me. He's always so negative from that childhood trauma. But yeah, I look at what happened with him and I'm like, I don't want that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting how you're operating, because we talked about epigenetics. And did you have a fundamental understanding of that or not really?
No,
okay, you were doing it. So, remember your environment, how you think, who you're surrounding yourself with is absolutely relevant to how your body operates in the ecosystem and the chemical reaction that you have from a DNA level by who you're surrounding yourself with. My girlfriend made me aware that I'm pessimistic. Let me change that. I've got to stop this type of thought process. And you change your environment and then it change your gene expression instantly. That's how quickly it happens.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't even realize, but now that you said that, that's what happened.
That's really, really powerful.
Yeah.
And so how many years have you been operating in this new level of consciousness?
Probably a few years. But yeah, most of my life I wasn't, which is crazy to look back on.
Right. And with that, have you noticed a sort of rippling effect in your life when you change your viewpoint?
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. It's almost like you could just see it instantly, like you were saying.
Right. And wouldn't you say that that's also reflected on everything that's happened to you the last couple of years in relation to success?
Yeah, it definitely ties in hand, I'd say. Because there's not a lot of successful people that are negative.
Right, right. They just have a knowing.
Yeah.
They just have a knowing. And, it's like there's no in between. There's no gray area. It's just, I know what I know.
Yeah.
And the more you understand that, the more you realize that the faster and faster things take place for manifestation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you've done all this. You've got to Vegas. You're now ready for a new future. You've created all these great relationships. And I'll ask you again, what do you see for Sean?
Oh, it's going to be one of the biggest podcasts of all time. It's going to change so many lives, inspire so many people. I'm really excited about being able to leave an impact,
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see. And you're this genuine, I'm not going to use this word, it's kind of turned into a dirty word, this authentic you. It's a real, it's kind of a joke for me, but anyway. It is. It's like this genuine connection that you have with people, and the relationship that we've built in a very short period of time is sort of like to a level of friendship, and you don't even realize it. It's like, because you connect, and that rapport is instantaneous. So you create what they call as from a psychiatrist or therapist perspective, a psychodynamic loop. That rapport that you create with people is your mindset, and that's how you instantly get people into your life, because you're open, you're receiving, you're grateful, you're just present. And that has ultimately been a change, and I guess you could attribute it to
the podcast.
The podcast, But I feel like you reference your girlfriend. She
Oh,
clearly,
it's my girlfriend. Yeah.
yeah. That kind of like makes a huge difference
For
when
sure.
she's able to give you that awareness, and now you've grown from it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's made me a better person, and that's important for anyone. I think find that rock.
Yes, because that intertwining of those energies, because I do weddings a lot. I'm actually doing one at the end of the month. When you intertwine those energies, that's for life, my friend.
Yeah.
And even on a relationship level, on a sex level, all that kind of stuff, you got to be aware that when people are doing these types of things, because most people operate from a duality. There's a level of consciousness that you get to, and that's with time, and you understand and realize you are one. But there's also a rippling effect where, as you're gaining that awareness, you're still operating in this duality aspect. So you're going to believe in good and bad, up and down, in and out, and that will come to you.
Right.
The faster you come to oneness as a whole, then you ripple. I mean, what you're creating and manifesting in your life now, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when you start leveling up. I hand you some secret sauce stuff, and
Can't
you're
wait.
going to be the grand master of podcasts.
Let's do it.
Good luck. Good luck, Joe Rogan. He might as well retire right now.
Oh man, I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, it's been an incredible experience having you here at the temple, having you here on the Consciousness podcast, and getting to understand where you really became inspired to just be you. You know.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been an honor. This has been enlightening again, and I can't wait to build our friendship.
Yeah. It's a real beautiful thing, because it's the old expression, like attracts like, and that's kind of like we create that, and that has a rippling effect out into our stratosphere. And you know, the universe, the Tao, Buddha, God, whatever it is that you believe in, brings those energies together. That's an instant manifestation. That's why all you got to do is think it, and it becomes so. And that's that rippling effect. The only obstruction for anything, from a bag of money to the perfect life to whatever, is just you. When you just accept it at a face value, it's going to become your reality.
Let's do it.
So again, thank you, Sean, for coming on, and we're going to have a lot of fun times coming up here in the future, and I look forward to watching your podcast just explode beyond what it's doing already, because you're getting information out there it needs to be told. The stories need to be told, and people need to be aware of these incredible assets.
Yeah, same with your show, man. Can't wait to keep an eye on it.
Yeah. Thanks again, Sean.
Yep.
And I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master San Quinn, and I'll see you on the next one, guys.